This is Red Out for On the Radar Entertainment Blog, coming to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observations number 113. This whole week I went streaming as I ran out of physical copies. The first movie I watched was called My Spy, where David Bautista is a former soldier turned spy, and he's not the world's greatest spy. And and Ken Jeong's his boss. He works with Kristen Schaal, who's like a tech person, and pretty much based on how the last mission went, they kind of wanted to demote him. And then they had Nicole Correa Dumont, who people know from Canadian television, where she was in the show Nurses, and she was evil woman in the Coroner TV show. So some familiar faces, and basically based on the last mission he went on not going so well, he decided that, Chen Jeong goes like, well, I'll just put him on this like mission where he's just got to do security and just watch in case this bad dude comes back and talks to his sister who's a single mother. And it turns out that the movie is really dumb, but kids will like it, where the kid figure out that he and Kristen Schaal are a spy, and he helps this girl out because she's not fitting in, gets close to the mother, who I remember her from Midnight Texas a bit, so it was like, okay, I've seen her before. She's not a big-time actress, Parissa Fitz-Henley, but yeah. That's the movie where she takes advantage of him being a spy, taking him to school, helping out with everything in the life and the mother. And then, of course, Ken Jeong goes, well, we don't need it anymore. The bad guy is dead. Well, nope. The bad guy attacks, kidnaps the girl, blah, 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 blah. Dave Bautista does this whole action movie sort of thing from his, his persona being this big tough guy, WWE. Saves the girl, saves the day, blah, 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 blah. Wins his job back. End of story. So it's an okay kids cheesy movie. It wasn't that long of a movie. It was barely 90 minutes. I would say, if you got kids, you should watch it. Then I watched this Bob Dylan documentary that was about 2.5 hours, where there was a lot of wasted scenes of like Patti Smith and some other people singing and dancing and acting, and you're just like, who cares? This documentary was about Bob Dylan called Rolling Thunder Avenue. It's, by Martin Scorsese, so it was like, okay, I can understand why he made how long this movie, and it's on Netflix. I probably wouldn't have gone on my way to watch Bob Dylan's movie, because if you Google Bob Dylan documentary, about a dozen or so things come up. I always find it interesting. He's Jewish, he's from Minneapolis, a family friend of ours, his cousin's with him, and was invited to his bar mitzvah, things like that. And he's a great American songwriter. Never had the world's greatest voice. I learned a lot about him in rock and roll history, so I know a lot about him. But it was interesting. I just felt like, yeah, there was a lot of scenes that you just could have cut out. Made the movie 90 minutes to an hour and 45, maybe an hour 50. It didn't have to be 2.5 hours. But overall, if you're into Bob Dylan and into documentaries and movies about musicians, I would suggest it. Then I watched a movie on Amazon, which gave me Amazon's free version where it had commercials, called La Casa. So, like, based on true story, there's this house is haunted, and this cop goes to help out this house, and he's stuck in there, and he's calling for backup, and they don't help him. Then he called his wife on a payphone, which you're not sure if it happened before he walked into the house or after, where he says, I committed such a horrible atrocity, and in the house, creatures are attacking him, and he kills people and torturing somebody, and you're not sure if he did all the killing and torturing in the house or if it happened in the past, because it seemed like it happened afterwards. So it was horribly put together, the movie, and confusing and pretty silly, and there was not a lot of talking, and when there was, it was in Spanish. It just wasn't that great of a movie put together or edited together. It just didn't make the most sense. The only saving grace was an hour and 15 minutes with credits, so it's barely an hour and 10 minutes. Then I went to Tubi, which, it's got commercials, and I watched movies Derek's Dead. The problem is, the guy who plays Derek, it's hard to find who he is in the movie in terms of the casting, but the movie is pretty much three friends who are estranged based on things they did to each other that may involve women or vandalizing, where some Asian girl pretends to be a lawyer and hands friend A his friend's ashes and says, you gotta go and spread them at some remote water area, which is not really a water area, but you need to do it with this other guy. But that other guy, he hates him also. So he's doesn't really want to go and see that other person and then bury the dude's ashes. And the whole movie is an interesting take because in the movie, the guy's not dead. Sorry to spoil it. It's just a horribly written movie put together. And he really was like, I faked my own death because I owe this woman $800 and she stole my dog and she's going to kill my dog because I said I was going to dunk a basketball in a kid's hoop at an elementary school. And it's like, you faked your death for all that little amount of money, and then the three of them don't have money in their bank accounts or a savings account, and they got to get it from this woman who seems all talk, and she's got this big, fat, blonde dude who bleaches hair, breaking people's thumbs. Like the guy with the glasses, he gets hit by a frisbee, shot, and his finger broken by this big dude named Dewey, which is stupid. And eventually, guess what happens? The dog gets killed. They don't get enough money because she wants the money to be raised. And it was just a horribly put together movie. And they're like, well, we got to overcome all the things that happened together and we got to be friends again. And that's an important message. And we got to move on. Now, it's pretty darn stupid. The only saving grace, it was one of those streaming movies that don't cost you any money, even if you see the commercial. And it's about 80 to 90 something minutes. So it's not like you're wasting your time if you're just looking for something for free streaming. Then I watched the movie Sexual Animals, where I thought the main dude looked like the dude from Shithouse. It was basically some dude who's taking like sociology of like human beings, but he takes an animal course. So it was professor who's out there is narrating throughout the whole entire movie of what's going on, and there's like chapter this, chapter that. And he and his girlfriend have been dating for years. She decides, you know what? Let's take a sexual break and we can sleep with other people. And you know what happened. She's going to sleep with many guys, and it turns out she slept with many guys beforehand. But the point is, it's like, he like, great. I don't know if I can do this. I've been with this woman for a long time, to find out that she's been sleeping with other guys and sleep with his best friend. And it's like a whole, it's supposed to be like a study into college mating rituals. If you're going to stay with somebody, you're going to sleep with everybody, and there's party, and he's got friends, and then they're not really his friends, and his parents expect him to get married. His father's weird. It wasn't a great movie. It was just odd and interesting, so I'm glad I watched it because I felt it interesting enough for the 80-something minutes the movie was. But whenever your girl says, let's take a break, or just a sexual break, and we can see other people in terms of just hookups, you know she's going to have every guy in the world going after her, and you're going to look silly because he'll sleep with one girl, and it'll just get screwed up. And blah, 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 blah. And it was just like, okay, I get it. Then I watched the movie's Haven's End. It was the last movie from my 2019 DVD list I had, where it took the movie like 30, 40 minutes into it for it to know what's going on. Basically, fires are attacking, there's terrorist attacks, you're not sure what's going on, if it's aliens, whatever it is. So, it took almost an hour into the movie to have two small, like 2-second scenes of a group of people who look like zombies, like a fat guy and some other people, and they're just aimlessly walking around, and they show that briefly for a second, and they saw in the woods. Then they show it towards the end. So you're like, if this is supposed to be a zombie apocalypse the movie, why do you only show zombies for a couple seconds twice in the movie towards like the back end of the movie? The beginning of the movie looked like it's going to be a survival movie, like they got to go and survive. And this woman who's not a doctor because she didn't follow an NDR, DNR request, and she's on leave, and her husband's in the army, and this supposed nerdy girl with glasses and a stupid t-shirt and a suit jacket has her wife tell her to stay with them because it's more safe, and she's pregnant, and her wife's in the military, blah, 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 and this woman who's in the main character of the movie, her husband was in the military, and he's got a knee problem, and it's just like, okay, all this is happening, let's go to this dude's bunker, and they go to this dude's bunker, who supposedly was in the military with her father. So her father's in the military, her fiance was in the military, her friend's wife is in the military. So it's like really coincidental and stupid. And they get a bunch of stuff, and he's like, yeah, people have been trying to steal my stuff. And because they had this stupid lesbian pregnant woman, she gets shot, and like, oh, well, I'm going to leave my bunker that has all these valuable items and stuff that people want, and I'll go with them to wherever they're going. Blah, 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 blah. And they go to this, RV, like mobile home thingy that's like off the beaten path because it's good where to hide out. And of course, her junkie brother and junkie girlfriend are there, and they shoot the dude. So it's like, well, that guy, student left his bunker because it's now probably ransacked, and now he's dead. So it's like, well, that one guy's dead. Another person shot. He's like 30 minutes into it. So I'm like, I guess it's a survival movie. And then, like the junkie brother girlfriend is gone. And the pregnant woman's found dead, and you're just like, well, it has to be the junkie brother because he seems on edge, and you're right, and he gets his just desserts, but zombies killing him in the end, and then you think at the end of the day the main woman is gets saved because she finds the military. Nope, she happens to find the former pregnant lesbian nerdy woman's wife, who's supposedly also in the military, happens to be in the same area, and now she's got zombie eyes. Like, oh, they're gonna make a sequel? No, it's stupid. Everybody died in the movie. Barely showing any zombies. The movie's about zombies. You'd have shown more of it, showing how people turn into zombies and how it's going on, than it to being like, you know what? Let's just casually mention it and like just have everybody die, everything like that. Okay, cool. Glad it was one of the last movies I watched on that list because it was probably one of the worst movies I've seen. Because it didn't know if it wanted to be a survival film, an action movie, a zombie movie. I don't know. It didn't know what it wanted to be. Then I watched a movie on Tubi for free, another one called Here and Out, which I thought wasn't bad. Because like a brother and sister who are like estranged, they're all like, well, what are we gonna do after college? Well, I'm looking for a job. Oh, I'm gonna move here. Oh, I haven't seen this friend in a while. So she invites two of her friends, one she may be close with now, one she's not close with, and he invites his friend, and they all go to their cabin, and there's a creepy guy next door, and you're like, maybe he's the bad guy, and it's too obvious that he's the bad guy when people go missing, because then you realize, well, people are playing pranks on each other, they're trying to be immature, so maybe that's why people went missing, or cell phones were destroyed, like one guy did something to cell phones, the car being, taken apart, things like that. It's all playing pranks on each other. So you don't know if it's actually your sister, your brother, your friends. You think it's the creepy dude next door who says, if you need anything, I'm here. And they try to go, confront the guy, and he goes, no, I'm not the person who's done that. And then, of course, if the thing is super obvious in front of your face that this guy is not trying to kill them, he's just lonely and he tries to keep them there, then you're like, well, at least in the end of the movie, no one dies and life moves on. So at least it's not like a horrible horror film like the one with Haven's End, where everyone dies and nothing happens that matters. In this movie, there's some interesting friendship issues going on with each other, and everybody's surviving. You're like, okay, you know what? I spoiled it, but again, these are the type of movies that there's a reason why they're on Tubi and they're 80 to 90 minutes, because some of them, like La Casa, were not filmed well or written. Same thing with Derek's Dead or Sexual Animals, which is interesting, and Haven's End. Some of them are not well written together, cliche, obvious, over the top. Like, especially Haven's End. Some of the actors were so bad at acting. Same thing with Derek's Dead. There's like, yeah, how are these people professional actors or comedians? Like, they're not funny, they're not good actors. But I would say My Spy, because it was funny and it was David Bautista, Kristen Shaw, the woman from the corner, and Ken Jeong, it had its moments. It was a good kids movie. And then when watching the movie about Bob Dylan, it's like you're just learning more stuff. Derek's Dead was somewhat funny. It was like a bro movie, and I'm like into, Friends movie. Sexual Animal I thought was interesting, not the world's greatest movie, and Here and Out was an okay horror film. It wasn't the worst, it wasn't the best. I would just say don't watch Haven's End and don't watch La Casa de House. Those two, you're wasting your time. At least with Here and Out, it's an okay horror film, and Sexual Animal is an interesting enough movie to watch. Derek's Dead and My Spy were funny enough, and Bob Dylan was something you learned. Thanks for listening to our edition of Movie Reviews and Observations, number 113. For On the Red Entertain Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.